We'll get to your calls now. We'll start with Dwight in Crowley. You're on 570 KLIF.
Good morning. I have a couple of questions. One, how does Medina plan on improving the issue with education and getting the state out of the different mandates? And two, there's a tremendous shortfall for Texas workers right now, about $148 million in benefits. So I'll hang up and listen.
There you go, Deborah.
You know, the question, I think, with education is, are we ready to introduce competition into the public education arena? We would all recognize that monopolies produce the poorest products and services that cost the most money. If we want an education system that really is producing improvement in outcome, we're going to have to allow competition into that system. There may be some things, for example, that we're doing in our university system here in Texas that need to be replicated. Perhaps we need to get back to independent school districts. We're all familiar with the notion that we've got independent school districts in Texas. I'm asking, independent of what exactly?
Yeah, right.
Independent of parents, independent of the local community. It's supposed to be the local community and the local parents that are guiding and directing the local school district. That's what we need to get back to. We need to use nullification against the federal government. Again, in education, there is no constitutional provision. The Texas Constitution says, in order that our children would understand liberty, the state of Texas will provide a free public education for the general dissemination of knowledge. We've got a constitutional duty and responsibility in Texas to take care of our children. Washington, D.C. does not. We need to push back against the Department of Education at the federal level.
You know, there's a quick question for me inside of that. What exactly do we need a Department of Education for, a federal Department of Education?
There is no constitutional authority for that. We do not. We absolutely do not. We need to fight against that. The difficulty, of course, is going to be how much of our funding they take out of our pocket, take to Washington, and then redistribute back to us. We've got to work strategically to make sure that that money stays here in Texas in the first place, and then back Washington out of that federal interference in our education process.
Okay, let's go next here to Phil in Palo Pinto. You're on 570 KLIF.
Good morning, Ms. Medina. I'd like to know what can I tell my neighbors out here in Palo Pinto County, Mineral Wells, Texas. Are you familiar with us?
A little bit.
Okay, and my friends in Erath County. What can I go back and tell them about you that would have them hear me out and ask them to vote for you?
Working really hard, Phil, on helping people understand the essential elements of freedom or private property ownership and gun ownership. Debra Medina is going to move the debate from appraisal tax reform to getting rid of property tax altogether. We're going to make sure that we keep and own weapons. We're going to understand that it is an armed populace that keeps us the most safe and the most free. No amount of military or police protection is going to protect us. We've got to be armed and protecting ourselves. We're going to back the federal government out of education, energy, agriculture, health care. We're going to be free again in Texas. And when we have that freedom, when we have that limited government, the nation will see what freedom looks like, and we will turn the tide in the United States.
Boy, the hard thing about a normal person getting into office, Deborah, I was just asking you about there, how do you like running? How do you like the process? The reality is when you have to work for a living and run at the same time, that's an immense challenge. Of course, an incumbent like Rick Perry or Kay Bailey, who have these deep war chests, present a formidable challenge. What kind of progress are you making so far? You mentioned name recognition in the 7 o'clock hour, but to be able to raise more money and bring more to the fight here.
We put regional field coordinators on the ground in most of the major metropolitan areas in Texas. We've got folks working greater Houston area, South Texas, DFW Metroplex, East Texas, North Texas, West Texas. That's helping a lot to get the name recognition, to get the volunteers, to assemble the teams. This campaign had teams at 45 Tea Parties even last April, from Brownsville to DFW, from El Paso to Beaumont. We've got people out there who are ready to go to work. They just need a little bit of leadership in the area to help organize and make sure that that process is efficient. Where I'm wanting to spend a lot of time is on the policy study. Make sure that we really are ready to govern Texas, understand, believe that in all likelihood the national economic conditions are going to continue to decline. Everything that Washington is doing, I think, makes the situation that we're in worse. I expect that the dollar is likely to continue to lose value, that we may even face a period of hyperinflation in this country. So we've got to be looking at what can Texas do to create a hedge of protection, if you will, around our state's economy. We've got the 13th largest economy in the world. Are there things that we can do as a state to protect against that decline so that the people of Texas are limited in the adverse impact, that what happens to us isn't as detrimental maybe as what's going on elsewhere. It's that kind of policy study and development where I'm really investing a lot of time and energy right now.
Your numbers to join us, 214-787-1570, 800-583-1570, and pound KLF on your AT&T wireless phones. A three-way race right now on the Republican side, Kay Bailey, Hutchison, Rick Perry, and Debra Medina. Let's get to your calls here, those of you that would like to speak with Ms. Medina. We start with Mark in Dallas. You're on 570 KLIF. Morning.
And thank you for this interview. I appreciate it. I've
Very
never
welcome.
heard of Debra before, but I tell you what, she's sounding like a true champion to me, and I can get behind a woman like this. Two questions. One of which is I haven't caught the entire conversation. I noticed her last name is Medina. Does she have any allegiance or loyalties to those groups that want amnesty for the millions of illegals from Mexico?
No, Mark, no leanings even towards amnesty. I think the important thing of a republic form of government, which is what we have in this country, we are a constitutional republic, is a recognition that the role of government is to ensure justice, to ensure that the rule of law applies equally to everyone. We've ignored the law. We've invited invasion. It is a legal immigration process that has made us the greatest country on the face of the earth, drawing the best and the brightest from all over. The wealth of a nation is in her people.
Correct.
It is not in our natural resources alone. It is in our people. But we must promote a legal immigration and assimilation process, not invite invasion, which is what we have done by ignoring the rule of law, especially along our border.
Well, along them same lines, and let me ask you this as well. What do you think about those that are pressuring our local governments into getting away from voting at large and moving to these districts where, their people can get a stronghold in our cities?
We certainly have some work to do with regard to the process that we use to register voters. That has become a little bit sloppy. I think many of us are concerned about the names on the voter rolls. We want to make sure that the voter registration process is a secure process and that we have an efficient method of recognizing and identifying that people that get their name on those voter rolls are, in fact, residents of that area, legitimate voters in that area.
Okay. My second question is, Texas, we've got a port, we've got great highways, we've got a couple of really great airports. How come that we can't start a new mandate or initiative to really make Texas just a centralized hub for some new manufacturing going into the next century or this century, kind of like the North was at one point. It just seems like we've been overrun by the liberals and parts of our government that have chased business away. What can we do that could possibly bring serious jobs, long-term jobs, not these mediocre service jobs, back maybe to the state of Texas?
Mark, thanks for your call.
Get Washington out of manufacturing, recognize, as you've identified, that losing our manufacturing base is a great threat not only to the economy in Texas, but to the economy of the United States, to our own safety and security. We've got to get government off the backs of our manufacturing enterprises, off the back of energy and agriculture, and allow people to produce. Where those industries need to be regulated, Texas ought to be doing that. There's no constitutional provision for that to occur. Thanks for your call, Mark.